Hi, Tolani.
Hi, Tamara.
So today we'll be discussing the issues around censorship of Nigerian music on Nigerian radio.
Yeah, basically. Annoying, actually.
What is censorship, though?
I think I have to go to my dictionary for this one. Censorship, according to Oxford Dictionary, the suppression or prohibition of any part of books, films, news, etc. that are considered obscene, politically unacceptable, or a threat to security. That is censorship.
Okay, that sounds very understandable.
Yeah, very, very elaborate as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tolani, we listen to Nigerian radio.
Yeah, we do.
We hear words like cassava, banana, sex, bad, alcohol, and more censored.
Yeah.
What's the reason?
There are basically 3 kiddos of words that are censored on Nigerian radio. Basically 3 kiddos. That's what I gathered from people that I spoke with while trying to research this article. So number 1, there are like the profane language. There's the profane language. So you're talking about fuck, shit, motherfucker, words like that. Exactly. And then there are words that, depending on the connotation or their connotation in a particular song, say where cassava is used as a euphemism for penis.
Okay.
It can be censored, right? And then, but yesterday, that was the newest one. That was what really inspired this. I was coming to the office, and then I was listening to Joeboy's Alcohol, and I discovered that alcohol was censored on Nigerian radio.
Wait.
Which alcohol was censored, and that's not even the wildest one. The wildest one that I saw was the next song that played after that. There was a line of bad belle, Nigerian colloquialism. You're from the Allstars. You see guys say bad belle a lot. So bad was censored, belle was left, and I'm like, what is the point? So it feels like these guys have created this idea of acceptable language on Nigerian radio and what can work and what can't work. So that's where we are right now. That's the dispensation we are right now. It's not Canada. This is the dispensation.
Interesting. What are some of the cases of censorship of music on Nigerian radio?
So usually it depends on the situation of things, right? So sometimes some songs are explicitly not played on Nigerian radio, and it also depends on the cadre radio. We work in pulse, right? Yes. Right, and we understand that there are some things that some other websites can do that we can't afford to do. We cannot afford to do those things.
Sure.
Just because of what it is, especially in our social channels. If we do those things, some people might get away with it. We are not going to get away with it. So the bigger radio stations, for example, they don't meddle with the lines. If it doesn't work, they are not going to play. So that's why in Naira Marley's Soapy, for example, or Naira Marley's Coming, for example, will not be played on Nigerian radio. Especially the biggest Nigerian radio stations. Maybe somewhere along the lines in some states you might hear it, but maybe like the bigger ones, you might not hear it. Even if you might hear it on some radio stations, you might not hear it as much. A song like Coming, a song like Soapy, and then based on a reliable source, Joeboy, Joeboy changed the title of alcohol to Sip bracket alcohol. Word on the street says one of the reasons why I changed the title was because of NBC.
Seriously?
Yeah, so that the record will probably be played on radio. One of the reasons, that was what I heard, right? So these are the instances those are the things that we're dealing with Nigerian music, on Nigerian radio. But here's the question. Why then do we have radio edits and clean versions of songs? Like, is that not the point? If Lil Wayne records are the wildest things in the world. You've heard Lil Wayne records.
Sure.
Like, I remember when this guy was making fun about a hearing on Capitol Hill, Trevor Noah, and was trying to express it. He was saying that it sounds like the clean version of a Lil Wayne rap song. So he was saying, and like you will hear one word, you might not hear the next 3. That's the essence of a radio edit. But sometimes Nigerian radio still doesn't want to. If WAP, a clean version of WAP can be played on American radio, why can't the clean version of Soapy or Coming played on Nigerian radio? I don't know.
Okay, so how does this affect Nigerian radio stations?
So, in two ways, basically. Number one, it affects them in the sense that sometimes, even though there might not be an express directive from NBC, especially when they are the bigger ones that have all the eyeballs on them, what they do is, if it's mistakenly toes the line, they are going to not play it, or they are going to tell the people to go and bleep certain parts of the records out. But here's the problem with those things. If the song is big and can affect ratings, you know, these guys operate on ratings. If it can affect ratings, especially depending on the time belt of some of their biggest shows, they might want to play some of these records because it affects the ratings. It affects the people that are listening to them. For example, if you are driving in the afternoon, you are unlikely to be listening to a station that is talking about politics. You probably want to listen to music. Or maybe you want to listen to lifestyle content. In the evenings, maybe you want to listen to music. So it depends on the time belt. So these things affect Nigerian radio stations as well. Like, it affects the content that they can play. Sometimes they don't even wait for NBC to come, because if NBC comes and catches you, it's a fine. There are sanctions for these things. So a lot of it really can be annoying.
How do you think this affects the musicians and artists financially?
Not exactly.
Yeah.
It does in a way. So there are two ways that this could affect people financially. Number one, direct revenue from radio. Number two, direct revenue from radio. It should be happening. Direct revenue from radio. Number two, in the sense that radio is the biggest propagator of Nigerian music. Radio has the reach that nobody has. So if internet penetration is like 40-something% in Nigeria, it's rising, but it's not, and it's nowhere close to the global benchmark of maybe like 68% or 70%, right? So the idea is, radio stations, you don't need internet to go and play, to go and listen to radio. All you need is a small stereo, whatever.
Or a car.
Or a car. Even if you don't have a car, you have Uber. Exactly. Wherever downfall, they'll be playing radio inside downfall. So radio is the biggest propagator of Nigerian music. So sometimes it shortens the impact of certain songs. Naira Marley's Coming is probably the biggest Nigerian song of this year. Do you know how I know? I traveled for my sister's introduction in August. I grew up in Akure, Ondo State. Okay. I went to Akure, and then I went to Ado, that's not very far. The song, every corner, Coming was the song that they were playing. Every corner. But guess what? That song is not being played on Nigerian radio. So it affects, if someone is going to calculate the number of consumption, for example, the radio numbers are out for that record. So it might not be able to chart as high as it should. Does that make sense? But in advanced climes, right? Nigerian radio should be paying people. I was listening to an episode of Podcast. Was it Podcast? I can't remember. No, it was Nilai Patel's podcast, Decoder. He was talking to the host of No Jumper. The host of No Jumper was talking to a songwriter, like one of the biggest American songwriters, and she's told him that if you have one top 40 hit on American radio, on mainstream American radio, you are set for life to retire.
Wow.
Yes. So last year, the NBC amended the NBC Act to reflect some of these things. But enforcement of some of these things and entrenching them into practice, that's where the problem is. Maybe NBC should go and focus on that instead of censorship.
Okay, you have a point.
Yeah.
Does the NBC have a legal mandate for censorship?
Yes, they do. The legal mandate is very simple. So NBC was created by Decree 38 in 1992, right? And then in 1999 was Act 55, if I'm not wrong, right? But then 2004 Cap 11, there's an NBC Act, right? There's a law. So Section 1 of that law, Sub A, Sub D, H, and I, basically specifies some of these things. So it's the power. So that's the power. That part specifies the powers of the NBC. But the I part is what we're going to focus on here, because this is what affects censorship. The I part gives NBC powers to promote quote and unquote morals. Do you understand? So that is what we are going to focus on in this conversation, because the idea of moral, as much as morality doesn't only relate to things, to words like fuck or some of these things, it can also relate to interpersonal relationships, right? So as much as it's not exactly outrageous to enshrine morals into a law, the problem is the connotations of morals quote and unquote, can be very, very wide that you might not be able to control. Now you have a problem of running after what morality means, and that's why we have problems of censorship.
I agree. Morality is very relative for most people.
It is.
Okay, so now I'm curious.
Yeah.
Because if you have the right to promote morality,
Yeah.
who are they to decide the words are bad? Is there a historical thing guiding this principle?
Yes. So here's the thing about this. It's something I would like to call Nigerian morality. Nigerian morality is simple. So there is Nigerian morality, there's Nigerian ignorance, there's Nigerian daddy syndrome. All of them, they work in this particular situation. So Nigerian morality in this sense relates to the idea of people promoting custom as part of acceptable behavior. Now, classically, Nigeria, we are very, very rooted in values and customs. So in the old days, for example, topics around sex, partying, debauchery, hedonism were pretty much outlawed, right? You couldn't do those things except you were married or grown. But even if you could do some of those things, there is still a part of, they want you to put moderation on it. You don't want to be out of line. So the idea of these things then became a part of us, regardless of tribe. Nigerians have values, like it's who we are. So these values are determining the things we do right now. So that's why, as much as our generation might believe otherwise, and we might want to kick against some of these values and ask questions, a lot of our parents don't believe it. That's why a lot of Nigerian parents do not understand what LGBTQ rights are. They can't process it. They can't. Right? So the idea is also rooted in the protectionism of younger people. That's why censorship is a thing, because you want to give younger people an idea of what is acceptable behavior. Does that make sense? So if again, it takes us back to the first thing we discussed, two types of things that are censored. So number one, we're talking about actual profane language, fuck, motherfucker, shit, all this word. And then we're talking about words that have sexual connotation, say banana, cassava, all of these things. And then we're talking about words like alcohol and bad, right? Again, I said alcoholism in Nigeria, by values, Nigerian customs, we don't believe that people should be getting drunk. In Yoruba culture, that's what they say. Anybody here can testify. Like, anybody that's from a good home shouldn't be moving out late at night. That's basically the meaning. So some of these things, exactly. So some of these things are pretty much the idea of what they want young people to consume, because radio is one of the biggest propagators of information in Nigeria. Everybody listens to radio. Radio has way more mileage than probably anything you can think of in Nigeria. So the idea that media informs people, media nurtures people, media gives information, and basically inspires patterns of behavior, it means that people want to control what media disseminates. So it means that some of these words that by custom are wrong. Nobody's thinking about if those things make sense, but because somebody somewhere 10,000 years ago probably said these things are wrong. As much as some of these things have everything has negative connotations, everything has positives and negatives. There are plus sides to this, there are plus sides to that, but it's a problem of free will. Where is the free will? You are not allowing people. You want to decide for people what is wrong and right. You want to tell younger people what is wrong and right. That's why you are controlling what is acceptable on radio, even though it doesn't make sense. Alcohol is a fucking noun.
It doesn't. Sorry, Nigerians are. It's
a noun. Like people say alcohol in schools. It's an English word. Okay, profane language, like, even though I don't agree that profane language should be censored, like, because you and I, we have been saying this was since we were 13 or thereabouts. Yes, yeah. Because we consume hip hop. Even though your parents were not allowing you to listen to it, you listen to hip hop on the streets. Don't worry. When you go to school, your friends are going to give you Walkman. You listen to hip hop.
Usually describing me.
Exactly.
My house had no hip hop, but school was
fine. Exactly. Right? So you will listen to hip hop, you will say some of these things. But let's even say those words are by nature or by connotation, natural connotation, wrong.
Okay.
How about words like alcohol and bad? Why are those words censored? It is frustrating.
Okay, so we all, I think a lot of people will agree that Nigerians are hypocrites.
Yeah, we are.
But now, my issue is, we know why they're doing this, whatever traditional aspect is controlling their mind.
Yeah.
But does it really represent the reality of the country, the way we live?
No, it doesn't. Absolutely not.
So what's the point?
As at 2020, at the end of 2020, about 51% of Nigerians under 19 years old. Right? That's a lot of young people. That is a whole lot of young people. That means a lot of people that are getting nurtured by the internet, acceptable patterns of behavior on the internet, acceptable patterns of postmodernism and avant-garde lifestyle make up the bulk of Nigeria. So it means that a lot of these people, our generation, for example, we they learn work. We are okay. You're not a millennial. I'm a millennial.
I'm a millennial.
You're
a very young millennial.
Right? So you're a millennial. Gen Z, they are moving mad. Ooh. They are moving mad. Right? It's bro. It's not even because they are moving mad. It's because they champion the idea of free will.
We do not care.
We do not care. We are going to make our own rules, and these are the rules that apply. Now, if a significant chunk of the country wants to, as much as, yes, Nigeria is still a conservative country, don't get me wrong, but there is a growing idea of so what's postmodernism? Modernism was the era where ideas were formed. So maybe topics around Marxism, whatever, were formed. Postmodernism is the era of questions. So feminism or suffragettes, all these things. Like postmodernism is the era we live now, where people are acting, LGBTQ rights are like Me Too, Time's Up, all these things are happening at the right time. So people are questioning the status quo right now. So it's postmodernism. Now, so as part of postmodernism is the avant-garde lifestyle. We are seeing people defining their own fashion, people want to dread their hair, all these things are happening, people want to wear revealing outfits, even though Nigerian society doesn't agree with those things. Like the young people want to do some of those things. So it means that the idea that you are trying to propagate to them doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. But it doesn't even, like, regardless of what you do on radio, regardless of what you say on radio, these guys are doing what they want online. They are questioning religion, they are questioning values, and rightly so, because some of these things are meant to control people. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy nut, but the idea is, as much as people are, over the years, even some of these people that enshrine these laws, who are Nigerian daddies, who believe that they know what is right for you, they know what is right for you, and they want you to go to the right path. This is what is right for you. We have been here before. You people were doing what in the 80s? They were moving mad. They were moving mad, right? So it shows you that this thing is hypocrisy, and it's insincere. It doesn't represent Nigerian reality. It doesn't represent the truth. It's them. Sure doesn't represent anything. It's just people adhering to what values or customs have told us are right, but makes no sense. And we have even gone a step further. We are not going to words that have sexual connotations or profanity anymore. We are censoring alcohol. Alcohol.
I still feel bad about cassava, but
bro,
it's a food.
It is. I agree. But see, do you even know the wild part of that conversation is that the only reason those guys are using, so cassava or banana, it's already a euphemism. It's already a euphemism for penis. So why are you censoring a euphemism? Do you understand what I mean? Like, it's already censorship on its own.
It's censored.
It's censored. Now you are not censoring censorship.
Okay, wait. Did you say bad was censored?
It's bad belle. Bad belle. That was the line in the song yesterday. But bad was censored. Belle was left.
So I can't say someone is a bad person on radio.
Did you understand what I mean?
Wow.
So you are trying to create this clean. The world doesn't work like that.
Nobody's that clean.
Nobody's clean.
Okay, I have to ask. Do you think the age and values of the lawmakers reflect in the embassy's part?
100%. 100%. A lot of Gen Xers, a lot of them are Gen Xers, a lot of them are Nigerian daddies. And when were these laws promulgated? When were these laws promulgated? We are looking at maybe people. 1990. I can't tell you who championed. I can say it, but I don't want to say it on this. The person that championed the creation of the 1999 Constitution. The person was probably born in like 1920s or something. I don't want to say their name here. Like, what do you expect that person's values to be? What do you expect it to be? Is that person one of the greatest Nigerian lawyers ever?
Still going to be very traditional.
You get what I mean? So that means if the 2004 that these laws are a part of, they are not exactly a departure from the 1999, because it's probably still the same people, the same type of people that promulgated these laws. They are Nigerian daddies who believe that we know what is right for you, like I said the other time. It does reflect, because they are Gen Xers. Their reality is different. As much as they lived wild in the 80s, right? The 80s were a wild time, don't get me wrong. The 80s are basically the template of where we are right now. Everything, the era of aggressive postmodernism that we currently live in, everything's like, the way you are dressed is the 80s, right? The color blocking, some of these things, the 80s. The music, the 80s. Hip-hop, the 80s. All of these things, the 80s. Very influential time. But what we have turned the 80s into. So as much as, yes, I don't disagree that moderation is key. I don't disagree. Sure. Because everything has a negative. But sometimes you have to realize that some things are just words. Like, words have power, don't get me wrong. Words have power. But sometimes we have to then question what the reason for censorship is. Because if I can say worse things than fuck you. Worse things that would not amount to profanity. Worse things.
True.
Are we going to then censor everything? Like, people can have fights and talk to each other. You are not going to stop that in the real world.
Personally, fuck is not just used in, I don't know, it's a very, very good verb. And it just flows, you know.
Yeah, it does.
It's a very good way to get
it does. Like, see, I know it's a long shot, like, for words like fuck and shit to be normalized in Nigeria. It's a long shot. But at least leave the euphemism and the alcohol and the bad. Leave them. Don't censor them. Leave them.
So I'm guessing, in your opinion,
yeah.
Okay, let me not guess.
Yeah.
In your opinion, does it make sense that the people behind these laws are just that old?
I think so. I think they're old. I think, as much as, see, don't get me wrong, Nigeria is still very conservative. Even some people in our generation, right, that are in our age group, they still don't believe in some of the things that you and I might believe in.
Yeah, how can they rebel?
Exactly. You get what I mean? Like, a lot of people in our generation still don't want to, they still don't believe in that their wife should not be confined to the kitchen. It's that bad. Right? That's why on social media, if you go through, there was a guy that posted something yesterday about his mom. I think he's transgender, I'm not sure. He posted something up some days ago. Did you see the Nigerian comments under that? Wild. But guess what? That might be an extreme example of how conservative we are. Even the people that are very conservative are still saying the word profanity. They speak some of these things harmlessly. And sometimes, I'm going to get crashes into another part of this conversation, in the sense that, regardless of what you do, by the time you are 12 or by the time our children, you and I, are 12 or 13, by the time our children are 12 or 13, they will be saying some of these words anyway. Because why? Society is a greater teacher than anything. Like, people like to say that media is one of the biggest teachers ever. That is not wrong. It's not. It does influence. But guess what? Whatever media is disseminating was implanted by people, and people are a product of society. So that means society is the biggest teacher anyway. So why in the world are we then trying to use media to control society when media is a product of society? Does that make sense? No. It doesn't. It does not.
Okay, so in your opinion, does media censorship really work?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it achieves anything. I don't think it amounts to anything. I don't think it does anything. I can understand that words, profanity, actual profane words, are extreme. At least the world has an idea. For example, maybe Olori Buruku, for example, is heavy, right? You might want to censor Olori Buruku on radio. Because it's still a curse word.
It's a mean word.
It's a mean word, or whatever. But live again. Let me even go before I close the book on that. I don't believe that censoring those things. That's just my opinion now. I know it's facts only, but that's just my opinion. I don't believe censoring those words on radio amount to anything. They are not doing anything in the world. Nothing. Because people, as much as people consume media, people live in the real world more. So that means I was reading a research paper about media and how people's attitude to media like 4 years ago. I was reading it on Medium. I can't remember the title of the article, but the person was saying that as much as we relate to media a lot, the real world inspires a lot, like 50% of our patterns of behavior daily, every blessed day. 50%. That means half of your life. So even let's say you are sleeping for 10% of half of your life daily. So that it remains 40% for media, and 30% of media comes from social media, and social media comes from people, not radio. That is not controlled, unfiltered. Have you seen the way Stans attack people on Twitter? So one of them cost me yesterday. This thing, even if that kid might not be more than 17 years old. Are you telling me that radio is censorship on radio is affecting him? No, it doesn't. It does not.
Okay, this kind of brings me to my next question.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a link between all of this and what's happening on Instagram, the censorship?
Someone mentioned that in my IG comments yesterday, but I think they're different.
Also.
So words are censored on IG these days. Maybe someone is putting like strong words like bad. The A will be censored because everybody's afraid of Instagram. The only reason Instagram is doing that is because for a long time, Facebook as a company that's now called Meta, that's their name now, they were accused of lack of censorship, of the fact that a lot of people were constantly abused on their platform. Their platform was used to propagate bullying, it was used to propagate bad things, election misinformation and some of these other things. So this is their way to curb some of those things and to reimagine their image in the eyes of the people. It's different in the sense that most of these things that these people address anyway. I was reading this guy, a newsletter yesterday, I think was Cam Newton, I can't remember his name. He was saying that Facebook creates a tier of like the countries where information is addressed. So there's a tier 1, there's a tier 2, and then everybody else is in tier C. But even with that, Facebook only addresses things when they attack or are derogatory towards a set of people, or if they are inherently negative. Maybe you're abusing each other on Instagram. Some of those things they have similarities, but they are not exactly the same because people are not fighting on radio. You are not abusing feminists on radio. Like you are not even doing that yet. It's just words in music. It's just words in music. There's a difference. A big difference.
I agree. So now, in your opinion, right? What do you think NBC should focus on?
NBC should focus on important things, man. Focus on how to pay artists. Focus on how to pay creatives. Focus on how to monetize content. Focus on how to actually get collecting bodies to collect this money and pay people. If the US, if one songwriter, I'm not even talking about artists, songwriters, a songwriter has a top 40 record and they are set to retire for life, right? That means you have bigger things to do than censorship of bad alcohol, banana and cassava. It makes no sense, and that's fact.